This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
A very good morning. You're watching News 9. I'm Karthik Malhotra. This Tuesday morning, here are the top stories that we are bringing for you. First up, Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, is bullish on India's AI story. He's betting big with the opening of an office in Bengaluru, saying that India has among the largest users of the Claude agent. Also on the show, the India-US trade deal likely to be finalized next week. We'll tell you all about that on the show this morning. And we'll bring you some data because IT stocks continue to bleed and the hurt on investors is running long and hard. We'll tell you all the data of how IT stocks have performed vis-a-vis the Nifty 50. All this and more on this edition of Morning Brief at 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. First up, a quick look at the headlines. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates the India AI Impact Expo 2026 at Bharat Mandapam, highlights youth power, global collaboration and India's rising role in shaping a responsible AI-driven future. AI Impact Summit opening day sees huge crowds but sparks backlash over long queues, patchy network, security delays and alleged mismanagement at Bharat Mandapam. French President Emmanuel Macron begins three-day visit to India. Set to meet Prime Minister Modi in Mumbai today. Talks expected to focus on artificial intelligence collaboration and a potential multi-billion-dollar deal for Dassault Rafale fighter jets. Anthropic opens Bengaluru office, expands AI partnership across enterprise, education and agriculture as India emerges as a key market for Claude.ai and responsible AI innovation. India to send a delegation to US to finalize legal text of the interim trade pact. March signing likely as tariff cuts and market access talks gather pace. India and the US decide to keep digital trade negotiations out of the interim trade pact, with discussions now set to take place under the broader bilateral trade agreement. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Israel on two-day trip from Feb 25th to 26th to boost bilateral ties. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirms Prime Minister Modi likely to address Israel's parliament. Bangladesh braces for major political moment as BNP chairman Tariq Rahman will take oath as Bangladesh's new Prime Minister today, paving way for BNP's return after 2 decades. India will be represented by Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri at the ceremony. And in commodities action, silver drops nearly 2% to 2.5 lakh rupees per kg on profit booking, while gold climbs 700 rupees to 1,59,200 rupees per 10 grams amid global market cues and cautious investor sentiment. And let's continue with the rolling coverage of the India AI Impact Summit 2026. We'll tell you all that unfolds right here on News 9. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the India AI Impact Expo 2026 at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi on Monday, marking a major highlight of the ongoing AI Summit. The expo will open to general public from today, offering a closer look at emerging AI innovations and technologies. Now, earlier in the day yesterday, the Prime Minister said he felt proud to see global leaders, innovators and experts gathering in India, calling the summit a reflection of the country's young talent and its growing global tech influence. He emphasized that artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming sectors such as healthcare, education, agriculture, governance and enterprise. According to Prime Minister Modi, the India AI Impact Summit will deepen global conversations around innovation, collaboration and the responsible use of AI. Expressing confidence in the outcomes, he said the discussions could help shape a future that is progressive, innovative and opportunity-driven, powered by India's digital public infrastructure, thriving startup culture and cutting-edge AI research. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has begun a three-day visit to India, arriving just post-midnight in Mumbai for his fourth trip to the country since taking office in 2017. Now, Macron, accompanied by First Lady Brigitte Macron, was received at the airport by Maharashtra Governor Acharya Devvrat and Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis and senior government officials. During his Mumbai visit, Macron is scheduled to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi today, with talks expected to focus on artificial intelligence collaboration and a potential multi-billion-dollar deal for the Dassault Rafale fighter jets. Now, France is looking to deepen its defense partnership with India, with discussions centered on the proposed purchase of 114 additional Rafale aircraft, most of which could be manufactured locally here in India. Now, the visit comes days after India's Defence Acquisition Council cleared the proposal reportedly worth 3.6 lakh crore rupees. Macron will travel to New Delhi next to attend the India AI Impact Summit, highlighting growing strategic ties as both nations push for stronger cooperation in technology, trade and security. And the big AI Impact Summit, which did kick off in New Delhi, has brought together global leaders, tech giants and policymakers to discuss the future of AI. Now, ahead of the event, Prime Minister Narendra Modi outlined 5 key priorities, including expanding data centers, creating jobs, promoting human-centric AI and boosting global collaboration. Here's more.
The Global AI Impact Summit has kicked off in New Delhi, bringing together world leaders, technology giants, policymakers and innovators at a time when artificial intelligence is redefining economies and geopolitics. And ahead of the summit's inauguration, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has laid out 5 key messages that define India's vision for the future of AI. Firstly, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, India is expanding computing power and building a stronger AI backbone. The Prime Minister emphasized that the country is laying the groundwork for a strong artificial intelligence framework by boosting high-performance computing capacity and rapidly scaling up data center infrastructure. The goal is to make India a global hub for AI development and deployment. Second, data centers as engines of job creation. PM Modi highlighted that the growth of data centers could open up new employment opportunities for India's youth, highlighting a shift in how digital infrastructure is viewed, not just as technology, but as a driver of economic growth and skills development. Third, an open invitation to global tech companies. The Prime Minister urged international firms to host their data in India, positioning the country as a trusted destination for secure and scalable AI infrastructure. This message ties directly into India's ambition to attract global investment while strengthening its digital economy. Fourth, AI must remain human-centric. Speaking about the summit's theme, Sarvjan Hitaya, Sarvjan Sukhya, PM Modi stressed that artificial intelligence should focus on welfare for all and happiness for all, underlining the importance of ethical innovation, inclusivity, and responsible AI governance. And lastly, global cooperation is essential. The Prime Minister has framed the summit as an opportunity to bring the world together and build a shared roadmap for AI governance and collaboration, highlighting that AI is no longer just a technology conversation, but a diplomacy and strategic priority. The 5-day summit itself is being positioned as one of the largest AI gatherings globally. Hosted at Bharat Mandapam, the event will see participation from global technology firms, startups, academia, research institutions, union ministries, state governments, and international partners. Organizers expect more than 2.5 lakh visitors with 13 country pavilions showcasing international collaboration. From Australia and Japan to France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and several emerging AI hubs. As debates around job disruption, child safety, and responsible innovation take center stage, the AI Impact Summit is not just about showcasing new technology. It is about shaping the global rules of the AI era. And through these 5 key messages, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made it clear that India wants to be the heart of that conversation.
All right, from the heart of that conversation, let's take a look at the chakras surrounding the conversation. Remember, the AI Impact Summit 2026 did kick off at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi yesterday, bringing together, as you just heard, policymakers, technologists, and global industry leaders. Now, from generative AI adoption to school-level AI curricula and hundreds of crores of rupees earmarked for centers of excellence, the ecosystem is expanding rapidly. Here's a close look at the real 7 chakras the industry and the government must align if India wants to lead and not just consume the AI revolution.
The AI Impact Summit has finally kicked off at the Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. Why does this event matter to India? We lag behind the US, Europe and China when it comes to investments and advancements in this technology. There have been some innovations that have raised eyebrows, Sarvam AI to name one, but yet nothing that could shake up the space in any form whatsoever. So why is it important to India? One, we have the biggest users and adopters of this technology. India is now one of the leading geographies in terms of generative AI users. India even has an AI curriculum for young school children, has allocated hundreds of crores for centers of excellence. But these centers of excellence need to be careful with how they impart AI skills. AI has the capacity to modify and even dull human aptitude. Picture this. The MIT Media Lab in June 2025 published a study where they split a research group into 3 parts. One using ChatGPT, the second using a search engine, and a third using nothing but their own minds. The study found that LLM users displayed the weakest brain connectivity of any group, up to 55% lower cognitive engagement than those working unaided. The AI Impact Summit 2026 is about 7 chakras. Here are 7 early warning signals that researchers and columnists in India, the Hindustan Times publication among others, have drawn attention to with respect to the fast developing space of artificial intelligence. Number 1, cognition. Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan said this past week that AI will be incorporated into education starting from the 3rd grade, not only as a subject but as a research theme and communication strategy. Cognitive science suggests a paradox that the human capital chakra will need to address. The more eagerly a nation adopts AI in classrooms, the greater the risks of producing a generation fluent in finding answers but incapable of developing understanding. Number 2, culture. 69% of Google searches now end without a click to any website. Organic traffic to original content creators, publishers, bloggers, discussion forums has plummeted. India's counter infrastructure may be the most original AI contribution globally. Bhashini hosts over 350 AI models in 22 languages, trained on texts that are culturally and contextually Indian. BharatGen, the IIT Bombay-led consortium with 980 crores of rupees in funding, is developing a multimodal LLM for all 22 scheduled languages of India. Number 3, sovereignty. India's India AI mission budget of 10,372 crores of rupees over 5 years is roughly what OpenAI spends in just 6 months. when the US convened the pact Semiconductor Summit in December 2025, India was initially absent, invited only in February 2026 after the omission drew attention. India is valued for talent and market access, not as a critical node or weakness that has meant that India relies inordinately on foreign hardware and software. The country has no domestic advanced GPU production, and most Indian professionals use AI tools built entirely on foreign models and foreign compute. 4. Manpower. Here's where India stands to be most affected by the ramifications of AI, with over 490 million informal workers, street vendors, domestic workers, small farmers. The real test is whether AI reaches the people furthest from the keyboard. Number 5. Democracy. Meta reported that AI content represented less than 1% of fact-checked information. The democratic threat may not primarily be that fake things spread faster. It is that true things stop mattering. The scale of synthetic media is nonetheless staggering. 8 million deepfakes in circulation in 2025. Over Christmas week, xAI's Grok chatbot generated non-consensual sexualized images at an estimated 6,700 per hour. India faces acute vulnerability. Over 800 million internet users, 22 languages, where automated content moderation barely functions. 6. Discovery. 90% of notable AI models now come from industry. US private AI investment stood at $109 billion in 2024. That is 12 times China's and 24 times UK's. It's anybody's guess that India competes nowhere with this kind of numbers. Number 7. Governance. The EU wrote the world's first comprehensive AI law and within 9 months began softening its own rules. Capital was flowing to jurisdictions that did not regulate. The US scrapped safeguards entirely and the costs landed on individuals. Deepfake fraud caused over $3 billion in losses in 9 months in 2025. No jurisdiction has demonstrated a governance model that works at the speed of deployment. But the recent evidence reveals a specific vulnerability, and it is not about industry in India. The state is the country's single most consequential AI deployer across healthcare, agriculture, welfare, education, law enforcement, and content regulation. It remains to be seen how quickly the government's framework on regulation comes into enforcement.
All right, the big question mark over regulation looms large. Meanwhile, the opening day of the AI Impact Summit 2026 in New Delhi witnessed massive crowds and strong global participation. But for many attendees, the focus quickly shifted from artificial intelligence to logistical chaos at the venue. The high-profile summit drew policymakers, startup founders, technologists, and industry leaders from across the world. Yet, several visitors took to social media platform X, flagging long queues, restricted access points, and alleged mismanagement that made navigating the venue difficult. Now, despite months of preparation, the first day saw overcrowded corridors, patchy mobile connectivity, and delays caused by heightened security arrangements ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inauguration of the AI Summit. Now, thousands of visitors, exhibitors, and even foreign delegates reportedly struggled to access basic facilities, with some complaining about a lack of drinking water and confusion around entry routes. International participants also shared their concerns. A person that goes by the name of Daniel Otenyo claims to be an AI specialist from Kenya working with learning disability communities, said the biggest challenge was simply finding directions inside the complex venue. He added that security personnel appeared underprepared to guide global delegates unfamiliar with the layout. Many attendees said they had to endure extended waiting periods due to strict security protocols and sanitization procedures before Prime Minister's scheduled arrival at 5 p.m. yesterday. Connectivity issues further added to the frustration as faltering network coverage made communication and session updates difficult. Telecom operators maintained that additional indoor and outdoor network sites were installed to boost connectivity. However, participants continued to report patchy signals across halls where key discussions were underway. And even as the AI Impact Summit continues here in New Delhi until the February 20th, end of this week, India is pitching itself as a global AI hub. But ambition alone isn't enough. From compute power to skills, from jobs disruption to regulation, the risk of biased or misleading AI, serious challenges continue to remain. Here are 5 biggest hurdles India must overcome in its AI push.
India wants to be an artificial intelligence powerhouse. From government platforms to private startups, from defense labs to fintech apps, artificial intelligence is now central to India's growth story. But beneath the optimism lies a harder question. Can India handle the speed, the scale, and the consequences of AI adoption? Here are the 5 biggest immediate challenges standing in the way. Artificial intelligence runs on computing power, and computing power runs on electricity, cooling, and fiber connectivity. India's data center capacity has grown rapidly in Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Noida. But AI workloads require far more advanced GPU clusters and stable power supply. High-performance AI compute is still heavily import-dependent. Semiconductor manufacturing remains limited. Without massive investments in domestic chip capability and power infrastructure, India risks becoming an AI user, not an AI builder. India produces millions of graduates every year, but AI requires specialized skills: machine learning engineers, data scientists, AI safety experts, and chip designers. Industry reports show demand for AI talent is rising sharply, but supply of advanced research-level expertise is limited. Reskilling mid-career professionals, especially in traditional IT services, is now urgent. If the workforce transition lags behind AI deployment, productivity gains could turn into job displacement pressure. AI doesn't just create jobs, it also automates tasks. India's service sector, including IT outsourcing, customer support, and back-office operations, employ millions. Generative AI tools can now write codes, answer customer queries, and automate documentation. This risks not just sudden mass unemployment, but gradual task replacement as well, where fewer people are needed to do the same work. That creates pressure on wages, employment stability, and social policy. India has moved forward with digital governance frameworks, but AI regulation remains evolving. Key questions remain: who owns AI-generated content? How are biases monitored? How is personal data protected? Who is accountable when AI systems fail? Balancing innovation with safeguards is delicate. Over-regulation could slow growth, and under-regulation could damage trust. Perhaps the most immediate and misunderstood risk of AI remains its bias and misinformation. AI systems can generate confident but incorrect answers. They can amplify bias embedded in training data. They can hallucinate facts, fabricate citations, and misinterpret reality. In a country as diverse as India, with multiple languages, dialects, social contexts, biased AI outputs can reinforce stereotypes, spread misinformation at scale, and distort public discourse. And in governance, finance, healthcare, or law, a lying AI is not just embarrassing but dangerous. India has all the ingredients to make for a successful AI story: a massive digital user base, a strong IT backbone, policy ambition, and growing global interest. But ambition alone is not enough. AI's success in India will depend not just on funding and hype, but on infrastructure, skills, regulation, and sustainability.
And of course, sustainability continues to be the big question. And it's not just sustainability, it's also the sustenance of jobs. And at the India AI Impact Summit 2026, Sampark Foundation founder, chairman, as well as the former HCL Tech CEO Vineet Nair raised serious concerns about jobs in the AI era. Vineet Nair said Indian companies, especially in the IT sector, are largely profit-driven and may not generate large-scale employment in the future. Instead, he stressed that real job creation will have to come from mass-scale startups solving new problems rather than just building new technologies. Listen in.
The amount of people we have in what we call the sub-skilled task is very large, including IT industry. And if we are not careful, we will have a lot of unemployable youth and unemployed youth. Therefore, it is a crisis which needs urgent attention. Now, what do? In our schooling system, we need, I was just talking about it, we, for example, in Sampark Foundation started what we call half stories. We tell a half story and tell the children to reimagine the balanced story. So we need to introduce curriculum which is imaginative. We don't need to teach knowledge of algebra and fraction. Yes, we need to teach that, but we need to come up with imaginative curriculum which increases what we call the jugaad thinking so that people start imagining new solutions in the education institution. Therefore, the new curriculum on AI is not teaching AI technology, but is teaching them different problem-solving skills. From an employment point of view, I think it is very important for us to understand that Indian companies, including Indian IT companies, are going to be profit-driven. And therefore, if you believe that they are going to create employment, you must be dreaming. So therefore, the question is, how do we create employment in this environment? And that employment comes from mass-scale startups, which is what this government is already doing. So how do we create new sets of people who are trying to solve new sets of problems, not new sets of technology? And if we do that, we will get it right.
And continuing his remarks, Vineet Nair also warned that India must urgently address the question of data ownership as global AI models expand their footprint. He said many international large language models are far more advanced and are already using Indian data, raising concerns over long-term competitiveness. The dilemma, he noted, is balancing openness to global technology while building strong domestic AI models.
Indians have to be very careful on who does data belong to. And that is a debate we have a problem with. The LLM models which exist worldwide are far superior than the Indian models. Unfortunately, in India, and I am to blame for that, and Indian IT is to blame, we never develop products. So therefore, we do not have SLMs and LLMs which are world-class. So on one side, we have global LLM products, which they are coming to India and training on our Indian data. Should we allow that? Should we not allow that? But on the other side, if we don't allow that, then we have the data, but we don't have the LLM models. So how do we encourage technology companies to develop the LLM models? And therefore, this needs radical strategic thinking and a very important aspect. Otherwise, we will either give up our data, and I must remind you, I come from a time when the computer industry came in and Microsoft DOS operating system was thrown free in this country, and HCL had an operating system, Infosys had an operating system, TCS had an operating system, all of us had an operating system, but Microsoft came in and the DOS was pirated and everybody had a PC with the pirated DOS. What happened? All three operating systems, these three companies were killed. And therefore, over a period of time, DOS became the operating system, and then they started charging billions and billions of dollars, and the country lost the capability of developing operating system. So I think it's a very critical aspect for us to think about. Who does this data belong? What is the kind of incentives we are going to give to develop LLM technologies or SLM technologies fast so that we train on our data? Otherwise, an LLM will come in with our data and we'll immediately see return and we'll celebrate and we will do all these kind of press releases. But India will lose a competitive advantage on something which is very critical for the next decade.
All right, Vineet Nair there stating that data sovereignty as well as India pushing hard to build its own large as well as small language models is the need of the hour. But meanwhile, Claude.ai builder Anthropic has officially opened its India office in Bengaluru, calling the country its second largest market for Claude.ai and a hub for some of the world's most advanced AI developer talent. The company said its India revenue run rate has doubled since announcing expansion plans in October last year, reflecting strong demand from enterprises, digital native firms and early-stage startups. Now led by India Managing Director Irina Ghosh, the new Bengaluru office, Anthropic's second in Asia after Tokyo, will focus on hiring local talent and supporting businesses building AI solutions using Claude.ai. Now, alongside the launch, Anthropic announced partnerships spanning enterprise, education and agriculture, including collaborations with organizations like Pratham, Digital Green and Adalat AI to improve AI performance in Indic languages. The company also highlighted growing adoption across India Inc. with firms such as Air India, Cred and Cognizant deploying its AI tools to speed up software development and modernize operations. Anthropic says its expanded India presence aims to drive responsible AI innovation while bringing advanced AI capabilities to more sectors and users across the country. And time for a very short break, but the markets seem to be absolutely choppy and volatile this morning. And incidentally, it's not the IT sector which is bringing it down. In fact, everything other than the IT stocks are in the red this morning. But we'll give you some data on how big and how deep those losses on the IT sector have been in the year gone by. That and more on the other side of the break. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
रश्मि, ये मैडम बड़े शहर से छोटे शहर बसने जा रही है, बताओ। छोटे छोटे शहरों में ही तो है बड़े बड़े अखाड़े, नए नए दावपेच सीखेगी और फ्यूचर में मेडल जीतेगी। और बेटा, इनका फ्यूचर?
बड़े पापा, SBI लाइफ से इनका फ्यूचर सिक्योर है।
अभी तो इसकी जीत का इरादा पक्का है। करो पूरे अपने इरादे, अपनों से किए सभी वादे। SBI लाइफ अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए।
घर है वही जहाँ सब संग हो, रिश्तों को रंग दो, दुनिया को रंग दो।
Birla Opus Paints.
When drinking water turns deadly, it demands answers.
What is really going on there?
News 9 brings you.
Imagine water that you drink.
Contaminated drinking water in Indore, revealing a disturbing link to at least 15 reported deaths.
Typhoid outbreak in tribal areas. 104 patients.
After 15 people were killed.
Foul, frothy water from taps.
You would assume it's safe. It turned deadly.
Because how is that happening?
Different cities. One national crisis. Bharat. Quest for clean water. News 9. In your interest.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. Time now to look at the stock markets. Markets just opened about 15 minutes back and it's a very, very choppy, very volatile first 15 minutes. In fact, something that we haven't really been witness to, and that is an indication that we're also getting in the India VIX, which is above that psychological level of 12. In fact, the volatility index is at about 13.25 points this morning. Meanwhile, Sensex and Nifty continuing to see sharp cuts. In fact, yesterday was an aberration when markets closed higher, but we are seeing some sort of profit taking happening this morning. Sensex, as we speak right now, is barely at the 83,000 levels, down about a quarter of a percentage point from yesterday's slightly higher, about 600 points higher closure. Meanwhile, Nifty 50 barely touching the 25,600 odd levels. In fact, at 9:30 a.m. about 11 points lower than that at about 25,589. The small cap and the mid cap space is giving you some sort of mixed signals, while you see the mid cap space pretty much much mirroring the Nifty 50. The small cap is absolutely flat this morning at about 17,000 points or so. Let's look at the Nifty 50 heat map, and you'll be surprised to see that the Nifty 50 heat map tells us this morning it is not the IT sectors which are leading the losses. In fact, everything else seems to be in the red, and all this seems to be an account of what we've seen coming by way of the trade data. In fact, in the month of Jan, India reported a trade deficit ballooning to almost $35 billion. This is significantly higher than the $25 billion or so that we saw in the month of December. And this is not the only domestic macroeconomic headwind. There is also the unemployment rate, which has ticked up to a 3-month high of about 5% for the month of Jan. So macroeconomic data not really aligning with the overall sentiment that markets have become used to. And this is reflecting in the larger import-driven stocks also this morning. So look at the stocks of Reliance Industries, which are down about a percentage point or so. And across the board, you're seeing cuts. Look at the BFSI space. Big names like HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, all reporting losses this morning. Meanwhile, even the auto sector seems like a mixed bag. Maruti Suzuki down slightly in the red, but Mahindra and Mahindra taking deeper cuts at about 0.75 of a percentage point. Even the energy mineral space seems to be reeling under some pain this morning. Ultratech Cement is down about 1%. Tata Steel is down a little over 1%, and JSW Steel also about 0.7% or so down in trade this morning. Hindalco continuing with its downward pressure, down about 2.5 percentage points. Meanwhile, let's look at the IT sector, and the IT sector is where the surprise element comes in today. So after days and days of cuts that we saw, this morning, we are seeing the IT sector in a healthy shade of green. In fact, TCS is up 1%, Infosys is up more than 2%, and HCL Tech is up about 1.2% or so. Even Tech Mahindra up almost 1%. Wipro trading more or less flat this morning. So the IT sector is seeing some sort of buying on dip activity really picking up momentum, and this in spite of the AI summit here in Delhi and pretty much questions being raised about the future of India's IT services industry. But we are seeing that perhaps slower PEs of about 20 is what the IT space is likely to settle at. We'll tell you more about IT sector and its performance over the year in just a bit. But meanwhile, look at some more market action, and especially yesterday, as we had two IPOs really get listed on the main board. One was the Quality Walls IPO and the other was the Fractal IPO. And incidentally, both these big names listed on the stock markets with some major cuts. Quality Walls, which demerged from Unilever, saw its listing price at a discount of almost a quarter or so, about 25% or so below its expected listing price. So it demerged from Unilever and then went ahead and listed on the National Stock Exchange at about a little under 30 rupees per share. Remember, this is a discount of about 26% or so, 25.87% to the last discovered price during the IPO, during the demerger, I beg your pardon, at about 40 rupees or so a share. The market cap is at about 7,000 crore rupees. This, remember, is now coming at a discount of about 25% or so. There were estimates that it would be nearing the 10,000 crore rupee mark, but not really a very hot listing. In fact, the ice cream space has seen absolutely stone cold reaction from investors. Meanwhile, another cool sounding company, Fractals Analytics, did not also live up to investor expectations. In fact, the IPO listed at a discount of about 2.6%, at some point about 2.7% or so, at about 876 rupees per share. This was at a discount over the 900 rupees targeted. Meanwhile, on the BSE, it continued to list in line with the 900 rupee expectation, and that is something which is neither really a reason to complain nor something to really be too jubilant about. Meanwhile, look at the IT space, and the IT space is something which has pretty much been the talk of the town all year long, and in fact not just this year, even last year. And we've done a little exercise of comparing the returns on Nifty IT the big blue chip IT stocks which are listed on the Nifty 50 versus the 50 stock Nifty basket on its own. And since Jan of 2025, that's about 1 year and about a month or so counting, in the last 13.5 months, the Nifty IT pack has slipped as much as almost 25%. And in the same period, the Nifty 50, the 50 stock basket, has given investors a positive return of about 8.2%. Now let's move on to this year, and data from the 1st of Jan 2026 tells us that while the Nifty 50 has also been down almost 2%, the cuts in Nifty IT have been much steeper. Nifty IT is down about 14.2% since 1st of Jan this year, which is pretty much just the last 45 odd trading days. Look at just the month of February, and let's move on to the month of February now. In the month of February alone, Nifty 50 has inched up about 3.5%. Remember, big announcements coming by way of the India-US trade deal getting inked, the big news of the mother of all these, the India-EU FTA, as well as the budget, which did dampen some sentiments. But this big news environment has inched up the Nifty 50 in the month of February to about 3.5%. But the Nifty IT pack continues to see deep cuts, in fact, down about 14.4%. Meanwhile, as the India AI Impact Summit continues, there are critical questions which still don't have solid answers to. First, does India have a pure play AI story when it comes to stock markets? And unfortunately, the answer to that is pretty much no, because apart from Fractal's analytics, we haven't really seen any pure play AI stocks listed. While there's a lot of action in startups, we haven't really seen IPOs of AI-driven startups just as yet. Meanwhile, should investors go ahead and participate in the data center story? Now, some analysts out there tell us that potentially sectors like power, sectors like infrastructure and real estate could get a sort of fillip over the next few months, given the surround around artificial intelligence and data centers. Next up, there are going to be telecom stocks, and telecom stocks also continue to be in focus with this large AI story unfolding. But the question really is, apart from Bharti Airtel, do we really have a strong bet to make in the telecom space? Because remember, Reliance Industries and Jio Telecom have not de-merged, and there haven't really been any concrete announcements just as yet. And the telecom sector continues to be a duopoly, and the fact that Vodafone Idea continues to reel under pressure, trying to recapitalize itself and pay off its debt, is not boding too well for India's telecom diversification story. And finally, there's going to be the device space. So should you be looking out for device manufacturers, those who make smartphones and tablets and laptops and computer parts? Should you be looking at LG Electronics, which had a massive IPO debut last year, and companies like Dixon, which have been under pressure over the last few months? Is this where the real AI play is going to unfold? Well, these are sectors that one should watch for, but wait and watch seems to be the word coming from the street. So that's all we have here on the stock market update and the AI story. With that, we will slip into a very short break, but a lot more coming up on the other side of the break. But do remember, markets reacting pretty much to the trade deficit number that we saw, which has jumped to almost $35 billion, up from about $25 billion in the month of December. Estimates were that India's Jan trade deficit number will come at just about $26 billion, but it has surpassed that pretty significantly. Meanwhile, unemployment also continues to be a problem, and 5%, a 3-month high. The unemployment number also pretty much not coming in line with expectations. And with that, we will slip into a very short break, but a lot more coming up, especially global stories we are tracking for you, and of course the all-important swearing in of Tariq Rahman, the chairman of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is going to take oath shortly. We'll bring you all that and more. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
When Trump captures Maduro, News 9 breaks it first,
It's happening far away, but it has tremendous consequence for the world.
What happens next?
Biggest international headline of the hour.
The US has conducted military strikes.
This is the Venezuelan president.
Maduro faces multiple charges, including narco-terrorism.
This is Maduro being taken to the New York court.
Donald Trump indicated that Greenland might be next.
Where will Donald Trump stop?
A dramatic U.S. operation, power shifts in Venezuela. High-stakes geopolitics unfolding. What does this mean for Venezuela? What does it mean for the world? And what comes next? On point with the facts, unmissable insights. In your interest always. Fastest alerts, hard facts, 360-degree analysis. From breaking news to deep dives, when the world changes, News 9 leads. News 9, always on top.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. Time now to look at some other stories outside of the AI summit. And let's begin first with the India-US trade deal. A team of Indian officials will travel to the United States next week to finalize the legal text of the interim trade agreement, which both sides are aiming to sign as early as March this year. Commerce Secretary Rajesh Agarwal said the visit, expected to begin on Feb 23rd, will focus on converting the already agreed framework into a formal legal pact. India's chief negotiator Darpan Jain will lead the delegation to Washington, even as virtual discussions between the two countries continue. Under the proposed interim deal, both nations are expected to offer duty concessions on several goods, while the US is working to reduce reciprocal tariffs on Indian products from 25% to 18%. Officials say deeper tariff cuts could follow once the full legal agreement is finalized. Agarwal noted that while efforts are on to close the deal in March, technical complexities could influence the timeline. Now remember, the agreement is seen as a key step towards strengthening bilateral trade ties and expanding market access between the two countries. And India and the United States have decided to keep digital trade negotiations out of the interim trade pact, with discussions now set to take place under the broader bilateral trade agreement, or BTA. A government official confirmed that no digital trade chapter was included in the first tranche, even though both countries recently finalized a framework for the initial phase of the trade deal. According to the joint statement issued on February 7th, New Delhi and Washington aim to address barriers and discriminatory practices in digital commerce while working toward robust and mutually beneficial digital trade rules in the long term. Officials say these complex issues will be negotiated separately as part of the full BTA. The development comes after India last year scrapped the 2% equalization levy on overseas e-commerce supplies, which was seen as easing tensions with US tech companies. And moving on other global stories now, but staying with the US, President Donald Trump says he will be indirectly involved in upcoming nuclear talks with Iran, set to begin on Tuesday in Geneva. Now, speaking about Air Force One, Trump said the negotiations would be, as he said, very important, even as he believes Tehran wants a deal more than ever now, but warned that Iran understands the consequences of taking a hard line, referencing last summer's US strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Listen in.
What are you expecting from these Iran talks in Geneva tomorrow?
So I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. It's been typically, Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators, because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
Have you been told that a deal is next to impossible?
No, I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump is throwing his weight behind Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán ahead of a closely watched election in April. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Trump is committed to Orbán's success, describing his leadership and personal rapport with the US president as vital to American interests. The endorsement comes as Orbán faces one of his toughest electoral challenges in years. Take a look.
President Trump is deeply committed to your success because your success is our success.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Monday offered a strong US endorsement for Hungary's nationalist Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, who is facing an election in April. Rubio said President Donald Trump is committed to Orbán's success and sees his leadership as crucial for US national interests. Rubio was on a trip to Slovakia and Hungary, whose conservative leaders have warm ties with Trump and are critical of the European Union. Speaking at a joint news conference with Orbán in Budapest on Monday, Rubio said US ties with Hungary were entering a golden era, but appeared to make that conditional on Orbán staying in power.
But there's no reason to sugarcoat it. I'm going to be very blunt with you. The Prime Minister and the President have a very, very close personal relationship and working relationship, and I think it has been incredibly beneficial to the relationship between our two countries.
Slovakia and Hungary have both been accused by EU institutions of weakening the judiciary, media and anti-corruption enforcement. They've maintained ties with Moscow and opposed sending military aid to Ukraine. At an April 12th parliamentary election set to be keenly contested, Orbán faces his biggest challenge since his Fidesz party came to power in a landslide victory in 2010. The vote will have major implications for Europe and its strengthening conservative and far-right political movements. Orbán is considered by many on the American hard right as a model for Trump's tough immigration policies and support for Christian conservatism.
Staying with other stories from Europe, well, the European Union is stepping into US-led diplomacy, but carefully. EU Commissioner Dubravka Šuica will travel to Washington this week to attend a meeting of the so-called Board of Peace, an initiative set up by US President Donald Trump. However, Brussels has made it clear that EU will participate only as an observer, not as a member.
So indeed, I can confirm that Commissioner Šuica will travel to DC later this week. She will participate in the meeting of the Board of Peace for the specific part dedicated to Gaza. Let me stress that the European Commission is not becoming a member to the Board of Peace. So we are participating in this meeting precisely in our long-standing commitment when it comes to the implementation of the ceasefire in Gaza, but as well as to take part in the international efforts to support reconstruction and the post-recovery, the post-war recovery in Gaza.
Meanwhile, Britain is stepping up its crackdown on online safety, and this time artificial intelligence is squarely in the spotlight. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says all AI chatbots must be held accountable after Elon Musk's Grok was found to have generated non-consensual intimate images. The UK government now plans to widen existing child protection laws to cover AI tools and is also considering an Australian-style ban on social media for under-16s.
We also need to do with AI bots. This is something relatively new. And we saw with Grok, did you see the thing with Grok just the other week? An AI bot that allowed you to instruct it to undress people. And it did. It was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And we went into battle on that because I thought this is not good enough. We went into battle, we made the necessary steps, we threatened action, and we won that battle in relation to Grok, but we've got to do it with all AI bots, and we will do it.
And German auto giant Volkswagen is plotting major cost cuts to weather a challenging global landscape. The company plans to reduce costs by as much as 20% across all its brands by the end of 2028 as it grapples with rising expenses, a tough Chinese market and the impact of US tariffs on its business.
Volkswagen plans to cut costs by a fifth across all brands by the end of 2028. That's according to a report in Manager magazine on Monday. The report said CEO Oliver Blumer and Finance Chief Arno Antlitz presented a massive savings plan at a closed-door meeting with top executives in Berlin last month. Monday's report added it wasn't clear at the meeting where the savings are due to be made or where cooperation between the brands is to be improved. But it did say plant closures could be considered. VW's Works Council Chief Daniele Cavallo acknowledged the report and pointed to a deal struck with Volkswagen AG at the end of 2024. They agreed on measures for competitiveness and for a socially acceptable impact on the workforce. She added, quote, "With this agreement we have expressly ruled out plant closures and layoffs for operational reasons." The German auto giant wants to strengthen finances to deal with the impact of higher costs, a tough Chinese market and US tariffs. Europe's largest car maker is in the process of cutting 35,000 jobs in Germany by 2030. Its core brand announced in January it plans to reduce management positions and consolidate its production platform. It aims to save $1.2 billion by the start of the next decade.
And finally, Chinese tech firm ByteDance says it will tighten safeguards on its new AI video generator Seedance 2.0 after legal warnings from Hollywood studios, including Disney and Paramount, over alleged copyright infringement. And the move comes amid a broader industry backlash against AI tools that create videos using iconic characters and celebrity likeness without permission. We leave you with that story.
ByteDance will take steps to stop the unauthorized use of intellectual property on its new AI video generator. The Chinese firm made the announcement Monday following legal threats from US studios, including Disney. Seedance 2.0 was released last week and videos made on it have gone viral in China. The AI model has been praised for its ability to produce cinematic storylines with only a few prompts. However, a source told Reuters Disney sent a cease and desist letter to ByteDance. They said the US giant accused the Chinese firm of using Disney characters to train and power Seedance without permission. While ByteDance said it was working to improve current safeguards over the unauthorized use of intellectual property, it didn't describe the measures it was taking. Variety reported Paramount Skydance also sent a cease and desist letter to ByteDance. It reportedly accused the Chinese company of blatant infringement of its intellectual property. Disney's move comes months after it signed a licensing deal with OpenAI. It allows the startup to use characters from Star Wars, Pixar and Marvel franchises in its Sora video generator.
This isn't a trail of peace. This is pressure overload. A hill built for 1,000, forced to carry lakhs.
Instead of lightening the footprint, you have allowed people to actually get into every nook and corner of the Himalayas.
Careless travel, choking hills. If we don't change now, there won't be much left to enjoy.
We need to follow the Bhutan model, regulate people who can access hills.
News 9 presents Heal the Hills, continuous coverage.
Delhi is losing the fight against pollution.
This is not a story of just children. This is the story of every elderly person in the National Capital Region.
Delhi's hazardous air quality.
Smog capital of the world.
Delhi pollution has left us sick and exposed, also frankly embarrassed.
Hazardous air quality are disrupting daily life.
Growing issue of toxic air looming large over Delhi.
Delhi's air quality index has been hovering between 300 and 400 for the past week.